makes a city unique? Throughout the history of the country, municipalities have been constantly reshaped by economic movements, burgeoning industries, and ingoing and outgoing consumer trends. However, the ability to persevere over time through prosperity and decline truly shape the identity of any community. Located at the junction of the Appomattox and James Rivers, Hopewell, Virginia serves as an incomparable example of city spirit.
Hopewell can date its history back to Jamestown in that time. And with the founding of Jamestown, when the settlers landed there and they offloaded, they sent Captain Christopher Newport upriver, which is now what we know as the James River. What attracted Captain Newport to Hopewell, or what would become Hopewell, is the confluence of what we now know as the Appomattox and James Rivers, the ability to have rivers on 2 to 3 sides and only have to defend one side. That confluence and our location plays different roles over time. The first significant use of that strategic location is by General Grant for his headquarters during the Siege of Petersburg during the Civil War. Essentially, Hopewell becomes the birthplace of logistics. And we move forward in history, the industrialization occurs here in the United States. Then we have World War I. In 1915, early 1900s, the E.I. DuPont Company came to Hopewell and established a dynamite facility to supply dynamite to the States. With that, they went from about 3,000 employees to over 30,000 employees almost overnight. And the city just grew up.
In 1915, the Chicago Tribune gave Hopewell the moniker of the Wonder City because it came back from a major fire that destroyed the whole town.
When the fire occurred, the city at the time was approximately 80 acres, and then as a result of that fire, about 60 of those acres burned. From that point, we then began to rebuild from the ashes of Phoenix Rising. And then in 1916, we were incorporated into the city of Hopewell. Our strategic location on the river has changed over time, and as we move forward into the next chapter of our community, we're really building upon the rivers as our asset for redevelopment activity and access to the river for our community from recreational nature perspectives.
With a storied heritage and a resilient nature, the city of Hopewell has now been reborn through modern innovation and the dream of an exceptional future. Now being recognized as one of the best places to live, work, and play in the state of Virginia, Hopewell is living up to its longtime moniker of the Wonder City.
In the past, people who lived in inner cities were moving out because of amenities they could find in the county or more rural areas. Unfortunately, locations like Hopewell, we lost a little bit of our population. However, what's unique about our city is we're very small. We're 11 square miles, and we're surrounded by water on 3 sides. For many years, people thought that that was a detriment to us because we're waterlocked as opposed to landlocked. But that's an asset now because since people want to move into more populated areas and have things within their reach, we can have that community here in the city.
There's a real renaissance occurring in Hopewell currently. They put $2.5 million into the marina. They put $12 million into the new library. They put $4 million into the Beacon Theater. They put $8 million into streetscaping and road improvements in our downtown. Once that occurred, people realized that we're investing in Hopewell, so invest in Hopewell as well. We have 350 to 400 apartments coming on the river or along the river. We have water access. We have a river walk. You can launch a kayak right there. We have restaurants you can walk to. We have the Beacon Theater. We have an amphitheater going in to the city park area right on the river. We have great playground, a nature park by the river for kids to play in. It's just a wonderful location, but it's perfect setup for millennials and empty nesters, people who've been priced out of possibly because of retirement or because of starting their career and college debt and so forth. They've been priced out of some of the places like in Richmond. This is a waterfront community where you have water access, but you get in at a price point that is like you're living in a garden apartment in the middle of a county somewhere.
The city of Hopewell is still a very small city. We have about 24,000 people, and that's part of our charm. People are coming from outside the area to come to our community events that Parks and Recreation puts on and some of our other community partners. They're nice, big events. However, you still have that small feel where you feel comfortable.
We have to look at redevelopment as an opportunity. We may have buildings that are unused today. We had a fire, so we had to look at reuse of property in the early 1900s. Today, we're looking at buildings that may have been used for a specific purpose. But how can we reuse them to move our community forward today? How can we repurpose buildings? How can we repurpose properties? So there is a great deal of parallel to what happened in the early 1900s and what we're experiencing today 100 years later with regard to the rebirth of the community and where we're trying to take things.
This has been a long, arduous process for the city. Councilors many years ago made some decisions to make some investments, and some of them lost their seats because of it, but they were bold moves that created investment in the community, and it is now paying off for us.
I'm very hopeful about the future for the City of Hopewell, our downtown, and other parts of the city. I think that people are actually believing in government once again, in terms of wanting to improve their community, wanting to create a better city for everyone. And so when we start to have some new ideas or some new deals, I think that they're more receptive to them than what they were in the past. Hopewell is this place that's not one I've ever seen before, experienced before. It has so many things that other cities or communities want that we have right here. We have access to beautiful rivers. We have a regional community theater. We have a really strong education system. We have access to a wonderful downtown and beautiful neighborhoods. But most importantly, Hopewell has a lot of people who are invested in this community.
If you haven't visited Hopewell recently, you haven't visited Hopewell. To learn more, visit hopewellva.gov.